take the fast track to fun with Dave, Bill Cosby, the great sounds of Randy Newman, and more on tonight's Late Show with David Letterman. But first, your local news.
Next on 11 on 11, you just watched Hollywood's version of the streets of Laredo. Now, see what really goes on in the border town and why these trucks could threaten the safety of your family.
Also tonight, a dangerous gas leak in the Metroplex. Hundreds are evacuated, and the threat isn't over yet. 11 News, live with up-to-the-minute information.
And could a simple blood test tell you how long you'll live? Tonight, a medical breakthrough that some say proves the test of time. Only on 11 on 11, right now.
You're watching 11 on 11. 11 minutes of non-stop news and your forecast first on 11 News tonight.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Midge Hill.
And I'm Cameron Harper. Our headline story tonight, a dangerous gas leak threatens the safety of hundreds of people in South Dallas.
A construction crew breaks a gas line near the Redbird Mall at Camp Wisdom Road and Highway 67. The mall's evacuated. Then people who live in the area are told to leave. We have two reports tonight, beginning with 11 News reporter Jerry Jenkins, who is at the command post. So, Jerry, what is the latest?
Well, Midge, for one thing, the evacuees you were talking about are going to remain outside at least a couple more hours out here in the cold until that gas line is tapped off. Now, let's take a look at our picture from our live sky eye. As you can see right there, that's where they're working on the gas line at this very hour, trying to get that thing sealed off so people can go back home. Earlier, as you mentioned from the studio, traffic was backed up for miles on both Highway 67 and Interstate 20. The fire department not wanting to take any chances of somebody accidentally igniting this gas leak and jeopardizing people's safety. For tonight, the Toys R Us parking lot across from the Redbird Mall has turned into a command center and a refugee for evacuees.
They told me that I had to evacuate with the kids, and I just, I had to go. You know, fire department had to do what they told me.
The natural gas line was hit around 6:15 tonight.
A contractor hit a 20-inch distribution natural gas line. The line that they hit is right next to the service road off of Highway 67.
About a 4-square-mile area is evacuated.
This is a huge gas line. There's a lot of gas, natural gas escaping into the area, and when you've got a lot of people around, that increases the possibility of some kind of ignition, and that's what we're trying to do, is keep that from happening.
Inside Redbird Mall, customers are forced out, many leaving their cars behind. DART buses stand by to transport people who need a lift, but tonight this is no special event. And not only was the mall evacuated, but hundreds of people who live in this area in homes and apartment complexes were evacuated as well. They are outside tonight, and 11 News reporter Mark Anik is with them. Mark, what's the latest where you're at?
Jerry, we're on Chesterfield, not very far away from where you are this evening. And what you can see behind me, well, these are some of the people who have been outside for the last several hours, getting rather chilly, rather cold as the temperatures do drop this time of year. Their apartments are right behind us, but unfortunately there's no one in them right now. As you see, the police officers, security people are here to make sure that no one goes back inside, and they're not going to be very happy to hear the news that you just mentioned, that it'll be a couple hours before they can go back inside and get warm again. As we mentioned, they have been out here since those police officers came along earlier in the evening, knocked on their doors, and told them they had to leave.
And they beat it on the door, and as soon as they, I answered the door, they talk about everybody hurry up, vacate, turn off everything, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the first thing I think about is grab the kids.
And Latricia Craig did grab the kids and head outside. There, she and others spend hours waiting and trading stories.
I smelled gas. It was real heavy and strong, and if the wind, it kind of blew like, it made it just worse.
The smell was enough to scare some. Others were frightened by the orders to evacuate.
Right, boom, 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 just, you gotta go, get out of here, I know that's the way to do it, to get everybody out there, but, you don't know what's going on. Some people ain't gonna answer their door, because, hey, you banging on my door like that, so you scared.
It was really scary. I was scared for my kids, man.
I really don't know what to think. I'm just kind of scared, and then hoping that they'll get everything resolved before we go back in, but now I'm just having a little patience.
Patience, a commodity in short supply and getting shorter as the night goes on. And that is the news from this neighborhood. As you can see behind me, the police remain here, as we said, to try to keep people from going back inside. The temptation is rather great for those who did not get to grab a winter coat or some sort of clothing to keep themselves warm. And as we mentioned, it looks like they're going to be out here for just a little while longer, fighting these cooler temperatures. Jerry, back to you.
And Mark, I can say that while they may be cold, the firefighters here say that's the best thing on the side of the firefighters tonight regarding the weather. The cool temperatures and the light breeze is making the fumes, making them dissipate quickly. Let's go back to our sky eye and take a shot again from the air and see how the work is going on near the freeway, near Highway 67, near the loop there that goes on to Interstate 20. They are trying to wrap up. Once again, we don't have any great danger out here. The biggest danger at this point is just trying to keep any possible ignition from going off. And that's what we have from the scene. Midge and Cameron, back to you in the studio.
Okay, Jerry, thanks. They're saying it'll be capped off about midnight with any luck. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry.
That's right.
A $10,000 reward tonight for information leading to the arrest of the vandals responsible for sending a Fort Worth neighborhood up in flames last night. In Ion, Texas tonight, residents in South Fort Worth spend today cleaning up. Fire investigators blame the fires on thieves who tried to steal copper piping from a pressure regulator. Once the piece was removed, the gas pressure surged to homes over 9 blocks.
Sleeping. When I looked through here in the kitchen and I could see the fire here popping and could see the stove.
11 homes caught fire. 5 were damaged extensively. The Red Cross is helping with temporary shelter for the families that need it. The day after he is freed of murder charges, Jimmy Mankins Jr. issues a statement. A judge drops charges that Mankins murdered 5 people at a Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurant in Kilgore 12 years ago. DNA tests did not link him to the crimes. Mankins says he's going back to his job as a truck driver. His attorney says he wants to put the charges behind him.
Well, I think anything about Jimmy, unless there's some concrete evidence, you know, this talk about Jimmy and continuing on Jimmy needs to stop. This man's been through hell for 12 years.
Attorney General Dan Morales says the investigation is going on and he could refile those charges. And a federal jury in Lubbock says 3 men are guilty of targeting blacks for death. Prosecutors said the white man and 2 Hispanics set out to shoot blacks on the street. 1 man was killed, 2 wounded last October. Prosecutors want life without parole.
Tonight, the president and Republicans remain at a stalemate. Neither is backing down on their budget demands, so the government shutdown continues. White House Chief of Staff Leon Panetta says no progress was made today during 2 meetings. Both sides blame each other for the shutdown.
Unfortunately, Republican leaders in Washington have put ideology ahead of common sense and shared values in their pursuit of a budget plan.
And every time we reach out to try to help, we just encounter a new attack and a new mass of misinformation.
With no end to the shutdown in sight throughout Washington as well as across the country, that means that empty federal offices will be that way again tomorrow. Also, the monuments and the parks will stay closed. Some federal workers in Dallas and Fort Worth who have been through this before are taking it in stride, but others are anxious and worry about when they can go back to their jobs.
Bad thing that happened. Really sad. Yes, and I don't know what I'm going to. I have too many years invested to really leave the government right now, but it's a thought.
They're roughing it, too, at the White House, getting by on just 1 chef, 1 butler, and 2 housekeepers. The president's political director was sent home as non-essential.
Police arrest a Dallas man in connection with the death of a 4-month-old girl this morning. The infant arrived at the hospital with head injuries. She died a short time later. The man arrested, 25-year-old Marcus Jerome Hall, is charged with injury to a child. The child's mother wasn't at home when the baby was hurt. And suspected serial killer Glenn Rogers remains silent during his arraignment in a Kentucky courtroom today. Rogers is suspected of killing at least 4 women and 1 man in 5 states. Rogers was caught yesterday near Waco, Kentucky, following a high-speed chase. He's held without bond. He faces an extradition hearing next week. If you just watched the CBS miniseries The Streets of Laredo tonight, you might be surprised to find the real city is a far cry from that Hollywood image.
11 News reporter Karen Borda joins us now to show us one of Laredo's biggest problems, how it could soon cause a danger for us, too. We're talking trucks here, Karen.
That's right. Cameron and Midge, this year, 1.5 million trucks will pass through the city of Laredo. In 5 years, that number is expected to leap to 8 million. Now, consider that many of the trucks are from Mexico with different safety and weight standards. And those same trucks that now have to stay at the border will soon be allowed everywhere in Texas. It's an everyday sight in Laredo. Hundreds of big rigs maneuvering down narrow streets, clogging the interstate, and making driving in this border town a nightmare.
We do compete with these larger and heavier trucks, and it is a concern.
Sharon Mickley is part of the organization Citizens for Reliable and Safe Highways, or CRASH. She worries about the huge number and safety of trucks in Laredo.
Our concern is that we're going to have larger and heavier trucks. I've lived here all my life. I've seen the growth in the number of trucks that we're getting out here. It's scary to think that they might get larger.
And some don't meet the safety rules required in the U.S. U.S. trucks must weigh less than 80,000 pounds. Trucks in Mexico can weigh twice that, 160,000 pounds. U.S. truckers are limited to 10 hours of driving time per day. In Mexico, there are no limits. Unlike the U.S., front brakes on trucks aren't required in Mexico. And truck drivers can be as young as 18 in that country. They must be 21 in the U.S.
So far, I have about 11 violations.
Roberto Gonzalez is one of only 3 DPS troopers who regulate the thousands of commercial trucks in the Laredo area. This rig he pulled over had several violations, 2 serious.
Here you go. There's no front brakes on this vehicle.
No front brakes on a heavy truck, a dangerous and sometimes deadly combination.
That's an out-of-service item, and we are going to park this vehicle. He's not going to be allowed to continue.
Dr. James Germansky of Texas A&M International thinks the city of Laredo should do more to keep these trucks off the streets.
The more clutter we have in the city, the more congestion we have in the city, the more general activity that we can hold to the border area and to the city generates revenue. And that's what matters, in my opinion, to the city.
But city officials say where trucks are concerned, they're really in a no-win situation, because no matter what they do, folks are gonna be upset. Laredo Assistant City Manager Carlos Villarreal.
Some people might say is, well, you're compromising safety. And if we went the other way, they're saying, well, you're not interested about the private sector. You're not protecting business, and you're not protecting jobs. So it's kind of a catch-22 type of situation.
And it's not just a problem for border towns anymore. Under NAFTA, these trucks will be allowed throughout Texas starting next month. They're supposed to comply with U.S. laws, but with few people to enforce those laws, many trucks will slip through the cracks. Dr. Germansky says Texas must get tough and enforce laws that require Mexican carriers to have the same kind of registration and insurance as American trucks.
If they don't compel Mexican carriers to show that, we will have, without question, a serious problem in Texas.
State Attorney General Dan Morales is asking President Clinton to put DPS troopers at border crossings to examine the trucks before they come into the state. Meantime, DPS troopers in the Metroplex plan to be on the lookout for Mexican trucks.
Ooh, big potential for trouble.
Kind of scary when you think about it.
Frightening possibilities there.
Thanks, Karen.
Bob Guzman is in the storm center tonight, but there are no storms to really talk about. What a terrific day this has been, Bob.
At least around here, Cameron, but there is one big storm we're going to talk about, and that's in the northeastern part of the country. But our forecast first, he is right. Beautiful weather, 46 overnight, 69, lots of sunshine coming up tomorrow. Again, big storm in the northeast, sort of a blizzard / small hurricane, if you will, up in the New England states. We'll have it for you.
Tough up there. Thanks, Bob.
You're watching 11 on 11. There's much more ahead tonight. Nancy J. has inside information on the man who wrote The Streets of Laredo.
Also ahead at 10:15, is this a dangerous railroad crossing or just an unusual malfunction? Tonight, 11 News captures on tape what some people call a potential death trap.
At 10:19, it's not a crystal ball, but a simple blood test that could tell you how long you'll live. Tonight, would you want them to know the answer?
You're watching Cameron Harper. mid-chill. Jim Matthews Sports. And weather with meteorologist Bob Guzman. This is 11 on 11 at 10. Tonight on Dave. Sponsored by your Better Buick dealers.
Tonight, hold the phone.
I want pizza now.
It's Dave's Pizza Party with the classic cars, Randy Newman, and tomorrow, Elton John.
Yes!
Business is about as predictable as the weather. You never know when a storm's going to hit.
And you need it when?
All you know is you have to respond. So UPS guarantees overnight delivery by 10:30 a.m. and even 8 a.m. And for problems that can't wait till tomorrow,
It's one chip that I need.
there's now same-day delivery. Only UPS offers you all these choices.
We're back in business.
But that's what planning for a rainy day is all about. UPS, moving at the speed of business.
You know,
Huh?
I made a decision today.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going back to the office.
Great.
Relax. I didn't say I wasn't going back to work.
The compact Presario. Has it changed your life yet?
Let's look at the Magnum Power Sales event one word at a time. Magnum, as in Magnum Engines, as in Dodge Ram, ranked most appealing pickup by J.D. Power and Associates. Power, overall the most powerful line of truck engines on the planet. Sales, save on 5.2 and 5.9 liter V8s, up to $670, or $500 on Cummins diesel. And event, it's the first time America's hottest pickups have ever been on sale like this. At America's Truck Stop, the new Dodge.
There's a formula out there just waiting to be discovered. A remarkable formula to moisturize your skin. Carrie Silky Smooth formula. Different from any other Carrie. Lighter, faster absorbing, doesn't feel greasy. And with regular use, Carrie Silky Smooth formula moisturizes longer than Lubriderm. The formula for soft, healthy-looking skin. It's out there, just waiting to be discovered. Carrie Silky Smooth. Discover the formula. For sensitive skin, too.
We hope you enjoyed tonight's final episode of The Streets of Laredo.
And it sparked my interest in the man behind the story. So now Larry McMurtry is a Texan.
Oh, absolutely. And I definitely think that it's his Texas roots that have made him, or make him, such a great writer. In fact, Larry McMurtry has written 19 novels, many of which are now movies or TV miniseries.
I come from a ranching family. I come from a family, the oldest boys of which lived in the shadow of the trail drives, or right at the end of the trail driving era.
Ever since his birth in Wichita Falls 59 years ago, Larry McMurtry has had a love affair with the Old West. But long before Lonesome Dove and Streets of Laredo, he wrote books about relationships, like The Last Picture Show, Terms of Endearment, and its sequel, Evening Star, which starts filming in Houston Monday. But for most of us, Larry McMurtry will forever be linked with Lonesome Dove.
Lonesome Dove began as a script, which I did with Peter Bogdanovich for John Wayne, James Stewart, and Henry Fonda in 1972, which never got made. It was not a cattle drive script. Oddly enough, it was called Streets of Laredo.
That script sat on the shelf for years until McMurtry decided to turn it into a novel. Lonesome Dove won the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in 1986 and went on to become one of the most successful miniseries ever. And so too, Streets of Laredo. And by the way, Larry McMurtry lives in Archer City, but he's often spotted in Dallas, kind of hangs out there.
Nice work.
Yeah, nice show, wasn't it?
Sure was. Yes, it was. Thanks, Nancy. That's the news tonight. Thanks for joining us.